Yo, what's up guys? Sam Cole here. Okay, I want to talk about iPhone 15 because even though we're still about 11 months away from these phones dropping, there have been a ton of major leaks recently that I just have to go over. Based on everything we're hearing, it is going to be the biggest update in 3 years. And I say that primarily because of the design. The iPhone 15 is going to have a complete redesign, just like we saw with the iPhone 12 back in 2020 or the iPhone 10 back in 2017. And that's because, well, every 3 years, Apple changes the iPhone. We've been seeing this pattern for a long time. It's called a super cycle year, and it essentially means that rather than some small changes like a new camera sensor or a changed port on the bottom, which that is happening, we'll talk about that in a second, it's going to be a holistically new looking phone, which is really exciting, obviously. But here's the thing, even though we know a redesign is coming, we don't know what the redesign is going to look like. The actual look of the iPhone 15 is still a complete mystery, so we'll have to wait a little bit until that leaks out. But we do know one thing. We know the dynamic island from the iPhone 14 Pro is coming down to all models. Literally everybody has loved the dynamic island from the second we saw it. I still really enjoy using mine pretty much every day on my iPhone 14 Pro, and bringing this to everyone is just so cool. It's also classic Apple. Started on the Pros and move it down about a year later. And I guess while we're on design, because this is something else we know pretty much for sure, it's that USB-C is going to replace the lightning port. I've made a whole rumor video about that specifically and the why and why it's a big deal and why it is confirmed by Apple themselves, but just know USB-C also coming finally, thank you guys, on the iPhone 15. Now, one thing we've heard about the design that will only be for Pro models is that Apple is going to replace the physical buttons with solid state versions that don't actually move when you press them. Which sounds insane, but let me explain. If you've ever used the home button on an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8, you know how when you press it, the phone vibrates, but the home button itself, it doesn't actually move like something on the iPhone 6. Apple is tripling the number of taptic engines on the iPhone 15 Pros to make the buttons feel hyper realistic, even though they're going to be solid state, which means one, they're less likely to break over time, pretty much impossible, and number two, more water resistant. So I know this rumor sounds insane, but it's actually a very Apple-y thing to do, and it follows what they did with the home button years ago. This time it's just going to be for the side buttons. Another big rumor for the iPhone 15s is that Apple is going to be introducing an Ultra model on the iPhone. So just like there is an Apple Watch Ultra or the Apple M1 Ultra chip, this is going to replace the Pro Max iPhone. It's still going to be 6.7 inches. But Apple's apparently working to make it much different than the standard Pro. So there's almost going to be 3 tiers of the iPhone now. The standard, the Pro, and the Ultra, with the Ultra getting the craziest and most niche features. Next up, let's talk about battery life. On the 14 series, it's been fine, but there are a lot of times when I'm on long flights or big road trips where I wish I had more power, and that's why I powered up with Basis, who sponsored today's video. Basis are the makers of this really dope 10,000 milliamp hour MagSafe battery pack that automatically starts charging your iPhone 12 or newer the second you connect it to the back. It's got a really strong MagSafe grip here, and it doesn't fall off. I don't know, I thought 10,000 milliamp hours would make a battery pack fall. It doesn't. It's really sturdy on here. That's because it's extremely portable and slim for what you're getting in here, which is the amount of battery to charge your iPhone more than once over. I've seen some big chonkers out there, right? But this is just like a solid weight. It feels like 10,000 milliamp hours without feeling like 10,000 milliamp hours. And this one has a kickstand. So not only can you watch content in portrait mode when you're sitting this on a table or maybe a tray on a plane, you can also rotate it this way and watch content in landscape. You can watch videos super comfortably while also powering up your phone. And this is the game changer here, because when you need it, it's flipped out like that, and when you don't, it flips back into the body and you wouldn't even know it was there. So get some peace of mind and never worry about running out of power on your iPhone again with the Basis 10,000 milliamp hour magnetic wireless charging pack. I'll leave a link to where you can get this down below in the description, and thanks again to Basis for sponsoring this portion of the video. Okay, but let's actually talk about battery life on the iPhone 15, because while we don't have any hard leaks about the batteries getting any bigger yet, the processor change is going to be mirrored like it was in 2022 for the iPhones. Which means that next year, the base iPhone 15 and iPhone 15 Plus are going to have the A16 chip, which is the chip in the iPhone 14 Pros, and then the iPhone 15 Pros are going to have the A17 chip. And if Apple follows the pattern of what they've been doing, which is more efficiency and more power and a smaller size on the newest chips, then that suggests the Pros could get a little bit of a jump in battery from the processor. So just like on the iPhone 14, fastest processor is going to be saved for most expensive phone. It's a little annoying, but I don't know. It seems to be clearly working with sales for the 14 Pro this year. Next up, if you are spending the extra cash to get the iPhone 15 Pro, you are going to be getting extra RAM inside as well. Apple is bumping it from 6 to 8 gigabytes, which is not only going to be the most in an iPhone. It's kind of ridiculous. I've never felt like the 6 gigabytes of RAM in my phone wasn't enough. And I mean, I'll take it. It's just we're getting into that memeable Android territory where they're like, the Android phone has 17 gigs of RAM. And you're like, why? This is a phone. I make phone call. That's going to be as much in the iPhone 15 Pro as an M2 MacBook Air. All right, we're already memeing it. Let's talk about the last thing we're hearing, which is about cameras, because I know this is a big deal. And it does sound like, at least for zoom level, it's going to be a big year in 2023. We are finally said to be getting the Periscope zoom lens, which is a fancy way to say that imagine you have a periscope. Apple is basically using two mirrors, one like this, rotating it on the phone, putting it on the inside horizontally so that you can get a 10x zoom on a phone without a 10x lens sticking out of here. It's gonna be a really cool idea. I hope this graphic that I threw up helped. It's gonna be sick, and it will finally mean that the iPhone catches up to some Android competitors. Because as much as I love to make fun of Android, the zoom features they have are just unparalleled. Being able to do a 100x zoom and actually clearly see something or someone is just fascinating. And finally, wrapping things up here, there have been rumors for years that Apple's working to make their own 5G modems because they currently use Qualcomm or another third parties that they have to pay for instead of their own Apple Silicon-ish version. That was supposed to happen this year, but it's not going to make the cut. So expect the Apple 5G modem made by Apple, just like the processor, in 2024. So a little bit longer for that. But new design, Periscope camera, USB-C, dynamic island on all models, 8 gigabytes of RAM, A17 chip. I don't know where else you'd hear this information, all right, guys. I'm only taking this from credible sources. I'm obviously hyped. I know we have to wait a long time, but this is the latest on the iPhone 15, and I will keep you up to date down to the minute throughout the next year until we get these phones. Why? Because I am psychotic. And I like the iPhone. Okay, love you guys. Thank you for watching. Check out Basis again, who sponsored today's video. Love them and the battery pack. I will see you guys soon. All right, bye-bye.